Hi, guys. How are you all? Um, Let me know if you can hear me okay. I'll just go ahead and ask there. There we go. All right. Hi. I see Harani's here. She's our helper today. Joe might be here too. Let's see who's coming in here. We've got Bonnie. Hi, Bonnie. We have Suburban Homesteader, Wyoming and Arizona. Oh, hello from Wyoming. Hi. You're a neighbor. uh, Chrissy Deer turning in from Texas. Hi there. And oh, good. Thank you, Roxanne. Appreciate that. Oh, you guys are awesome for letting me know. Thank you so much. Hey, Joy. Glad you're here. Hi, Patty. BB's from Arkansas. Welcome. So glad you guys are here, you guys. Greetings from Northern Colorado. Hey there, Wendy. It's I haven't been to Colorado in since I was a little girl, actually. So 40 years. I just remember it was so beautiful, beautiful. Heather's from West Virginia. Welcome. Lori's in Indiana. Tove's in Norway. Welcome all the way in Norway. That's a place I would love to go someday. Hi, Anne from Australia. It's good to see you here. Living for Him. I love that name. Hi from Arizona. Brenda's in Ontario. Welcome, you guys. Florida is in the house. Woo! Natalia's home and garden. Cindy's here from Ontario also, and Louise from Australia. So we're all over the world here. Hi, Rosie in Chicago. Welcome, you guys. Hi, Jill from Australia. All right, so I'm gonna, I don't know, usually I stay on for like an hour, and I feel like that's a little bit long, but I'm not sure. So I'm gonna try to shoot for about 30 to 45 minutes today. Hi, QA Strategy from Maryland, and Laura's from Southeast Virginia and Maine. Hi, Sue. So I'm gonna go ahead. I have some questions that people have sent me, and we'll start with those. But honestly, this is your time to get in the chat and make a comment and ask a question. And I think Harani's able to even put it on the screen, and just wanted to mention that. So there we go. Brenda says, talk as long as you want. We love it. Yeah, I kind of get going sometimes. I get excited about my herbs. For sure. Hi, Shauna, with greetings to you too. And Darcy from New Brunswick. Beautiful. Okay, so let's see. First off, I want to just say, and Harani, if you're here, maybe you've got the link. And if not, I think I can get it in there now to this time. I couldn't put links in during the last chat. This time I can. So I've got a free home apothecary guide, and it's printer friendly, and it's about 28 pages, but this will help you get your home apothecary guide. And Harani just put the link in there. For you. So if you want to grab that, I think it'll open up in a new tab, and then you just put your email address in and I can send it to you. I have to tell you that will put you on my newsletter, which is a really great thing because I teach in it every single week. And I share things in my newsletter that I don't put on my website or on YouTube. I just teach something that needs to be said or mentioned. And it's a nice place because I can actually speak more freely if you get my drift. Social media, sometimes you can't really speak so freely. But anyway, I wanted to let you know that it's easy to unsubscribe if you don't like my notes. If you decide you get a note and you don't like them, just unsubscribe. No biggie. No hard feelings. So hello, Greg and Villette. Good to have you here from Kentucky. And we owe two Kentuckys. Jackie's from Kentucky too. So you guys if you have questions, do it this way. If you could write question in all caps if you can, and then your question. And that way I'll be sure to see it. And Bonnie's got a question right here. So I'll start with hers, and then I've got my list of questions from people who've sent them to me, and I'll answer those too. Bonnie says, Heidi, are elecampane leaves beneficial to tincture or only the roots? You know what? It's mainly the roots that are the medicinal part of that plant. So you definitely want to consider if you've got elecampane growing, digging it up in the early fall or the late fall, even after a first frost, it's still okay. And then what you want to do if you are harvesting roots, you want to be sure that you clean them off really good and then chop them to the desired size that you want them, because elecampane is super hard. And once it dries, it is so hard. So I just wanted to let you know that. It's a very hard root. Let's see here. Hello from Virginia, Teresa and Regina, Texas. And let's see, Bunny says, question, I have a York elderberry bush that has berries. The berries taste bitter. Are they supposed to? They are usually bitter sour. Okay, elderberries are. They're not sweet berries. So it's very likely that that's very normal. I'm not familiar with the Latin name for a York elderberry, but I do know there's a lot of hybrids now. And so since you're in the I don't know where you're at, depending on where you're at. Back east, it's the Sambucus nigra species that grow. And out here, it's the Sambucus cerulea or the Sambucus canadensis that grows. And yeah, they're, at least the ones out here by us are very, very kind of bitter sour. Not a great flavor, but honestly, when they're tinctured, or you can make cordials from them, they're actually quite tasty. Hello from Michigan by his hands. Love that name. Joy says, let's see, when are common hawthorn ready? The tree I know of, is still mostly green berries. So if it's a typical hawthorn, it should be coming ripe, depending on where your location is, anytime between, early July in some places, all the way into early fall in other places. It just depends on where you're at. And it also depends on the species. So I know, like for ours, and they look all different. The species give you different colored berries. So out here, where we've got Crataegus douglasii, that's the Latin name for hawthorn out here, that's native in this area. The berries are very, very dark. They're almost black when they're ripe. They are black, basically. They're like really a dark purpley red, but they look black to the eye, and they tend to start ripening. What are we at here? Mid-August, right around early August is when you need to get out there and pick them. Now I know back east and also in the UK, the hawthorn Crataegus species that they have, the berries are bright red, and they're like a little larger than the ones we have out here too. I'm not sure when those get ripe, so you just have to look, at them, and once they start turning, you can tell. But try to find out what species you have growing near you, because then you can do some research on that. BB says, question, is it best to use individual herbal oil infusions and then blend, or create a blend of herbs for the infusion? I love this question. And it's such a fun one, because I know, like when I first started, working with herbs, I made a lot of blends. So I would blend my herbs up like an herbal tea. And then I would actually go ahead and put that mixture into my jar and make an infused oil. And that works fine. That works perfectly fine. You can do that. And you've got your measurements all correct the way you want them. So absolutely, you can do it that way. But as I have kind of gone on my herbal path and journey, I've realized that I really like to have them single better, because then I can combine the oils in different amounts. So let's just say I want to make a salve for a person who needs more help with the musculoskeletal system. I can use more comfrey or more arnica in that one. Whereas if I'm working with a person who's got a rash, then I might want to use something different. So, but I can mix and match them like I want. So that's totally up to you. Let's see, Chrissy dear, question, how do you get your tinctures to not taste so strongly of alcohol? I saw in a video Rosemary Gladstar did where she said if your tinctures taste like alcohol, you're doing it wrong, and mine do. It might be that you're making them too weak. So your tinctures should taste like the herb that you're tincturing. All right. Now, you're obviously going to get the alcohol. Don't want to call it a flavor, but you know, when you take a tincture, you know, it hits your nose and it's just real strong, right? But if you're using vodka, which is tasteless, and if you're using, you know, if you're making your tinctures powerful enough, which hopefully you are, then your tincture should taste like the herb. So that's, you know, and I know a lot of people don't want to use a lot of plant matter. I personally tend toward more plant matter. If I'm not sure how a plant's going to act, like if it's the first time I've ever tinctured it, I'll err on the side of more herb to the alcohol. And if I'm using the folk method, if I'm measuring and using the standard method, then I just weigh everything out and do it that way. But then I find I often still have to make adjustments because some herbs absorb more liquid than others. So if it happens that your tincture, like if the herbs absorb too much moisture, they tend to expand. And if they rise above the top of the liquid in the jar, then you're going to want to split the jar and then add more alcohol. So there's a lot of things you can do with that. Let's see. Hello from Virginia. I've been watching a lot. Oh, good. Hi, Ann. Glad you're here. Aunt says, question, the herbal formulations from Fiasco Farm for animals are not shipped internationally. Any other suggestions? Do you know what I would do, Aunt, is I know farming's big in Australia. I would probably try to do some research on parasite formulas. That's what Fiasco Farm is well known for, you guys. But try to do some research on parasite formulas and herb places in Australia. You might be able to find something. I don't live there, so I don't know. The other thing you can do is you can look at the ingredients on their formula and you can formulate your own blend based on those ingredients. Just know that anytime you're working with parasite cleanses, usually those herbs are going to be extremely powerful. They're a little harsh on the body. And so you'd want to, not use them constantly. Okay. Let's see here. Is it easy to grow herbs indoors? Yes, it is. It's very easy, actually, in most cases. Now, some herbs, I'll just say this, most herbs love to be outside, if you've got the right outdoor environment for them. I take a lot of my herbs, actually, I take all my herbs outside every year in the spring after the chance of the last frost is over, or last frost for the season. And they love being out there all summer. And then when it starts getting cold and if there's a chance of frost, I'll bring them in. And then, so I have I have a huge rosemary plant that I've been growing for years and years now. And it just loves being outside. It just thrives outside. But when I bring it in for winter, I have to be sure that it's got a lot of sun, that I'm watering it properly. In fact, I think rosemary was that's one of the questions I got. A lady wrote to me and said, how do you grow rosemary? So I want to just say it's known as an upside down plant, and you might be wondering why you should grow rosemary. So rosemary obviously is good for cooking, but it's a wonderful aromatic. It's delicious in herbal teas, but besides that, it has a ton of medicinal benefits. It's good for the nervous system. It's good for the brain, your cognitive and mental health. It's really nice for the musculoskeletal system. It's got some analgesic properties. We just put out our rosemary masterclass in our Confident Herbalist tribe. And do you know what? Let me see if I have a banner for that. Let's see. There. If you want to find out about our herbal membership, there's a link coming across the bottom. It's really good. And let me go back to the chat. There we go. But you can check it out if you want to. There's a lot in there. But rosemary is one of our master classes, and we go into depth. We do a lot of research on these plants. And as the years have gone by since we started doing these, there's more and more research coming out. So the later books are actually really like updated. Anyway, let's see here. Oh, thanks, Ronnie. Ronnie put a link into an article I wrote a while back about growing herbs indoors. Oh, one thing I wanted to say about rosemary, it's known as one of those upside down plants, and I've got air quotes here, but basically what that means is that they take a lot of their moisture from the atmosphere. And so, in fact, if you think about where they're natively growing, which is the Mediterranean, they love growing by the sea because they get a lot of that moisture from the ocean. And even if they don't get a lot of rain, they like the dry, well-drained soil. So even if there's not a lot of rain, they can get enough moisture from the environment if it's humid enough. So inside your house, which is a really usually dry environment, especially in winter, get a mister like this and just spritz it once a day really well. And it's going to just enjoy being indoors a lot more. One of the things I found was that when rosemary gets stressed, or any herb really indoors, spider mites are a big problem. All right, let's see here. You scroll back up to the questions. Brenda says, question, I have a few dried elderberries and canned juice. Can these be used in conjunction with one another for anything? Or would the canned juice have any benefits at all? Well, if the canned juice is elderberry juice, yes, you're going to have a really wonderful beverage, and you can sweeten it with honey and drink it. I would not drink very much of it. I drink it in small amounts. It can cause stomach upset for some people. If you have dried elderberries, you can make syrup with that. You can actually make syrup with your canned juice and as well. And so if you wanted to toss your dried elderberries in there, if you have an excess of them, absolutely, you'd have a really, really powerful syrup if you did that. Suburban homesteader, basically green on her Hawthorn, still green berries. And you picked your aronia berries yesterday. Good. They're so wonderful. Any of those dark purple, red, blue, berries, they contain a ton of antioxidants. It's because of the anthocyanins in them, and they're wonderful generally for the eyes, for the heart, different organs. So they're wonderful. Hey, Becky from Bama. Welcome. Let's see here. Teresa says, what is the best herb to infuse with? There's a ton. There's thousands of herbs you can infuse. So, gosh, start learning herbalism. Get into a course and start learning, because there's so much, you guys. You will be learning it forever, and it's amazing. Let's see here. Natalia says, question, I've had to say goodbye to our fur baby girl last Sunday. We are so heartbroken. What can I take to help to deal with our loss? It hurts so bad. Oh, Natalia, my heart just squeezed for you. I'm so sorry. Yeah, I know how that feels. I mourned the loss of one of our dogs for a good 2 years. Like, I'm still mourning him, actually. I had him for 18 years, and he died of old age. We had to go put him down at one point because he almost drowned. He couldn't see anymore, and he ended up in the pond, and luckily we got him out. And my heart broke. I know what you're going through, and so I'm so sorry. So what you can take to help is going to depend on how bad it hurts, basically, and what you're feeling. But I remember for me, like, I just cried all the time. I cried constantly. What helped me was taking just calming, nerving herbs. So chamomile, passion flower, some skullcap is really good. Skullcap helps you to stop overthinking. So that's a really nice one to take. And then you guys, aromatherapy, your essential oils, as you know, I'm an aromatherapist as well as an herbalist, but the aromas, the different essential oils can actually support your mood and also your courage during the grieving process. There's a whole, you go through so many different feelings when you're sad and grieving a person or a pet. I wrote a newsletter. In one of my newsletter, I put a grief roller bottle. In fact, and I might have put it on my website. And it was a really nice blend. So let me see if I can find it here. I'm going to Google myself, Healing Harvest Homestead, and then grief. Let's see what comes up. Here we go. I did write it. All right. I'm going to put this link in the chat for you, and then you can go over there and get this this recipe. Okay. And I'm so sorry. Cindy says, question, I'm just starting to grow St. John's wort. How long before I should start harvesting? When and what to harvest? Just the flowers, what to save this year for projects next year. So Cindy, first thing I want to say is there are quite a few different species of St. John's wort, which is Hypericum. And what you need to know is that there's only a couple of them that are medicinal. So hopefully you've got the right one or ones, but it's Hypericum perforatum is the Latin name that you want to be looking for. So just do a double check and make sure you've got the medicinal one, because otherwise they're just there for prettiness. Okay. One of the ways you can check to see if it's a medicinal variety is to squeeze the buds. All right. If you squeeze the buds, give them a good firm squeeze, just a little, one or two of the buds, you should see little purple dots or red dots on your fingers. If you don't see those, then that means that you don't have the right variety, or it could just mean that the flowers are spent. Once the flowers and the buds dry up, that hypericin and hyperforin that's in the St. John's wort, that's the medicinal power properties, they tend to just evaporate and go away. Let's see here. So how long before I should start harvesting? You want to harvest right when they start blooming, okay? The parts that you want are the buds. The leaves have some of the chemicals in them too, so you can just do aerial parts if you want, and then garble off the leaves and the flowers. And then what to save this year for projects next year? Well, first off, you'd want to make an herbal infused oil if you've got the medicinal variety, and you want to infuse. This is one of the very few times you're going to infuse fresh herbs in oil. But St. John's wort, you want to be using fresh herb because, again, that the chemicals that you want in it that turn it that bright, beautiful red color. Do I have any up here? Oh, I do. I don't know. Can you see this jar? You can't, I guess you can't see. It's bright red oil. But you want it to turn red if possible. Otherwise, the infused oil kind of lacks power. You can still use your St. John's wort dried for teas though. Hi, Mimsy's Garden from Southeast Mississippi. Welcome. Heather says, question, I'm skeptical if herbs actually work, but I'm open. How did we get from Genesis 1, where the Lord has created herbs to serve us, to here, where we rely on pharma? Oh my goodness, Heather. We're going to go on a trail here. No, this kind of, I'm well known in the Confident Herbalist tribe for my rants and my opinions about things. On social media, I have to be very careful about what I say about things like big pharma and stuff. But basically, if you think about, just think about people over thousands of years, right? What did people do before the medical industry came along? Well, they used herbs. They used herbs and they used infused oils. And at a certain point in time, around the 800s in the Middle East, they discovered how to steam distill the herbs, and they were able to gather some essential oil. So there's a very, very long history of of herbs used as medicine. It is the people's medicine. It is traditional medicine. When we talk about medicine, it's herbs, right? And we all know that big pharma takes one active constituent or so out of a plant and then tries to turn it into medicine. The problem with that is that, okay, I'm a Christian herbalist. God made these plants, and as we know, the Creator makes things perfectly, right? And so if we walk out there and we take our plants and we're using them in our preparations, we're getting the benefits of the whole plant. And we don't get that with big pharma. We don't get that. We get a lot of side effects. And I think we get a lot of side effects because the scientists think they're smarter than God and they've taken out the active constituents. It's very frustrating, right? And if you're a person like I used to be, where, I grew up using pills because my parents did. And at this point in time, most of our grandparents are very much into that pill mentality too. And even some of our great grandparents. The time of the people having herbal knowledge at their fingertips is gone. And that's why we're relearning it. Guys, that's why this is my mission, to teach herbalism, because I think every single extended family needs to have access to herbal medicine. It's God's medicine, and He gave it to us. But we got here because of big power and big money entities making decisions, not for us, for the people, or for our benefit, but only for the bottom dollar. If you follow the money, you're gonna get big pharma. Okay, and that's how we all got here. You might not know this, but technically speaking, herbalism is illegal to practice as a medical modality in the United States. In some countries, it's kind of like on the edge, I think, but in the U.S., it's illegal to practice. So that's why you find herbalists not using medical language, and we don't focus on disease. We focus on health and wellness, because that kind of language is allowed most of the time. We have to do it the right way. So anyhow, we just aren't allowed to practice as medicine, but herbalists used to be able to. Back prior to about the 1930s-ish, herbalists practiced medicine, and people would go to herbalists. The only problem is that the doctors didn't like that, and big pharma didn't like that. Why? Because people were being healed and cured, and nobody was making any big money from it. Right? It's like, follow the money. Well, when the big pharma industry came about and they started making medicines for people, they put a lot of pressure on the FDA, and then the AMA, the American Medical Association, came into power, and they decided all together, this group, and the health insurance industry, let's not leave them out, they all decided that herbalists were bad and terrible, and that's when they made herbalism to practice as a medical modality illegal. So there's a whole story behind how that happened, and you can Google it. There's a book. Oh gosh, do I have it here? Let me see if I can remember it. Jean and Harani are both here, and maybe they can. It's midwives. Let's see, witches, midwives, herbalists, herbalists, witches, and midwives. I think it's not about witchcraft. I'm going to tell you that right now, because I don't read that stuff. But what it is, it's the story of herbalism, women in herbalism over time, and it's a really short little book. It has kind of a feminist flair, but if you're interested in that, but the actual research and the actual way they presented the information about what happened, the history, is really fascinating. It's a great book. Let's see here. Oh, thank you, Ronnie. Oh, good. And that's a different link too. I guess I write I've written a lot in the past anyway about mood and essential oils. But Heather, I just want to assure you that herbs do work. They work amazingly well. They're safer than drugs. Sometimes they might, especially for chronic issues, they take time to heal the body or to help the body support its own healing processes, but they work incredibly well. You guys, if you could have seen me, okay, I'm 61 right now. I'm a grandma, but if you could have seen me back when I was in my late 30s, I was very, of course, young, and young women are generally all beautiful, but I was very fit, but I was sick. I was very, very sick. I had rosacea all over my face. I had urinary tract infections constantly. I had candida overgrowth issues. I didn't know that then, but because of all the antibiotics I had taken, or I had been taking. When I turned to herbalism and I started learning in my early 40s, was when I first started like just dabbling. And then as I got older, I just finally said, this was probably mid to late. Well, this was probably I was probably nearing 50 at this point, when I just said no more. We got totally, I guess it was in my late 40s, because it's been almost 15 years now since we haven't taken any pharmaceuticals at all or over-the-counter drugs. But what ended up happening was when I turned to herbs only, my body was allowed to heal. Those herbs I was taking were supporting healing in my body. My allergies went away. My rosacea went away. My back pain that I was supposed to have surgery for went away. My sciatica went away. I mean, and it took time. This wasn't an overnight thing. And people these days want something overnight. When we go to a doctor and we ask for a medication, it's because we want immediate relief. But the medication doesn't heal us. Herbs do. All right. And that's my flag, and I will, be on that flag till my dying day, because I know what they've done to me, and I know what they've done for my clients that I've worked with. I know what they've done for my students. So many of my students, they've all had the same experiences I've had, most of them, to one extent or another. Sometimes we can't fix everything, and that's just the way it is. Okay, 11 Kitty, hi from a rainy Western New York. Hi there. Joyce's question, can most of the herbs used for tinctures also be used for herbal vinegars? I'm going to focus more on vinegars and eventually vegetable glycerin when I can afford it, but for now, vinegar. Most of them can. I have an article on my website where I talk about solvents and what gets extracted in them. You're going to get more of the plant components in alcohol than you will a vinegar, but depending on what you're doing, your vinegars are going to work really, really well. If you can afford, or once you can afford your vegetable glycerin, be sure you're getting food grade. If you combine vinegar and vegetable glycerin, you're going to have an extraction that's pretty similar to alcohol. And that's because the vegetable glycerin is sugar alcohol. So it can extract some of the same things that alcohol does. The other thing about that is when you work with glycerin, it's a good idea to add a little bit of water. And so for that, you're also getting the water extract as well, which I recommend. So you can start combining your solvents too and have some really nice, powerful products. Let's see here. BB says, question, follow up to the tincture question. When it comes to dried hawthorn berries, should they be rehydrated and mushed up before putting in alcohol? I'm last was dark but ready. Maybe your last tincture. You can, if you want to rehydrate them. You certainly can do that. In fact, what you have to be careful of is whenever you add moisture to your herbs or to your tincture, you have to take into account the alcohol, the total alcohol that's in the product. And you need 25 to 30%. I personally like to err toward 30%. That's just me. But some herbalists will say 25%. Some even say 20%. But I'm a 30% girl. for it to be totally shelf stable. So you want to be sure that if you're rehydrating something and you're adding water, be 100% positive that you've got at least 30% alcohol in your product. But I've actually dried or tinctured hawthorn berries dried, and I just crush them up really, really good, or put them in a spice grinder to grind them up. And is this one? I don't think this was dried. Maybe it was. But you can get a really nice, dark, good tincture with using the dried as well. However, I will say, and if you watched my last video, I showed you what to do to get a really powerful hawthorn tincture using your fresher berries, if you have access to them. Let's see. Anne says, I made a picture with marshmallow and was told it won't work as a tincture. What are your thoughts? Okay, so Anne, there are compounds in marshmallow, mucilage is the main one, that doesn't really do very well in alcohol. Okay, so you'll hear herbalists say, you can't put marshmallow in alcohol. Well, it's a lie. You can. So the mucilage, which is really beautiful for the mucous membranes throughout your entire body. That's why mucilage is so healthy and good for you. And it's also why we use marshmallow in a lot of our harsher formulas, because it counteracts the drying herbs. Marshmallow is really moisturizing to the body. So it's a wonderful herb, but it can be tinctured. What you need to do, though, is tincture it in a lower proof alcohol, because when you do that, let's just take 80 proof alcohol, for example, and that's what we call it here in America. It's a proof. 80 proof is 40% alcohol and it's 60% water. So when you put your marshmallow leaf into 80 proof alcohol, the mixture of the water and the alcohol is pretty balanced so that you can extract the constituents in the marshmallow and the mucilage. You get enough mucilage through the water that it's still going to be somewhat beneficial. The thing is, if you put marshmallow leaf in higher proof alcohol with more alcohol in the solvent, what ends up happening is that mucilage tends to glob together, and you might end up with a weird looking like blob in the middle of your tincture, or it's called a precipitate, and you don't want that. All you have to do if that happens, though, is add a little extra distilled water and it'll loosen right back up again. So it's very, very interesting. But yes, you can tincture marshmallow. You just have to know what you're doing with it. What is the ratio of herbs to vodka for a tincture? So the folklore method, or using the folk method, what we say is if it's fresh herb, you should probably fill the jar loosely and then top it off with your alcohol. If you're using dried herb, you usually use about a third of the jar and then top that to within an inch of the top with your alcohol. That's basically, it going by volume, just a volume amount, and eyeballing it. And that's how I make most of my tinctures, to be honest. I come up with super powerful tinctures that way. They're wonderful. If you want to use the standardized method, then usually for fresh herbs, it's a 1 to 2 for most herbs. And for dried herbs, it's a 1 to 5. And when I say 1 to 2 or 1 to 5, I'm talking about the weight in herbs to the amount of the liquid in milliliters. Okay, so you can do it that way as well. Laura Baldwin, hi, says, question, when you have an infusion that has developed mold, what is the best way to discard it? Oh, that's never fun. And it sounds like it might be like an oil infusion or a tea infusion. So if it's water, if it's a tea, then you can throw it in the compost pile. Just go out and dump it out in your compost pile. Or, you could even, if you've got a disposal, you can just, let it go down the drain and turn your disposal on. I love composting those, though. They're really great. If you don't, if it's an oil, then honestly, you're going to have to just get a bag and throw it away that way, okay, which is not ideal, but you can't really put oil in your compost. So let's see. Brenda says, question, is it appropriate to use a tincture as a rub into the skin? Example, willow bark tincture rubbed into sore feet. Yes, you can use good, strong tinctures as liniments. That would be like a liniment preparation. And you can just put it in a spray bottle, spray it on, and then just rub it, massage it in. You can also add a little bit of that to an oil. Like usually they will separate, so you'll have to shake it up, and that can be helpful too. And you can add the essential oils into your oil, your regular oil as well. But you can definitely use tinctures as liniments. Oh, thank you. Harani just put the Become a Herbalist link in there if you want to check out the tribe. And if you want this free guide, we'll get this link back in there too. And you can click on that. And in fact, let me, I'll just put that link so that it's going across. I think I have it here. So it's going across the bottom for you guys. All right. There we go. Yep, there's the link coming across. I'll just leave that there if you want to get your free personal home apothecary guide. And basically, I go through what you need to know, as well as dive into some good plants that are wonderful for your apothecary too. Let's see here. Joy says, I read that hawthorn berry seeds contain amygdalin. Is it because you're only crushing the berries but not breaking the seeds that the hawthorn berries can be used in tinctures? Partially, yeah. You're not crushing the seeds. And the seeds are really hard, by the way. They're super, super hard. But you get so little of the extract in the tincture that it doesn't really make a huge difference. But you're good to go with the hawthorn berries. Yeah, and once they're dried, the active compounds tend to disintegrate too. So if you're using dried ones, you're good. Oh, Ronnie put another link in for When Tragedy Strikes. Oh, that's the one I put in there. Or I guess I put that one in there. That's a really good article, you guys, if you want to refer to something for grief. Oh, yes. Teresa, question. You said rosemary is good for different things. Would it work well if diffused? If you diffuse the essential oil, absolutely 100%. In fact, when I'm writing or when I have projects to do, what's in my diffuser is rosemary, lemon, peppermint, and sage. And if you want to toss a little basil in there, you can too. But those essential oils are so, so good for the brain, and they help you to think. Also, I have a video on my YouTube channel about nootropic herbs, and I do talk about rosemary in that video too, and nootropic herbs in general. Nootropics are herbs that support the brain health and cognition. So yes, it's wonderful. Oh, thanks, Michelle. She says, and we love them in the tribe. Yeah, the courses. There's a ton of courses in the tribe. Oh, the rants. You love the rants of the tribe. Okay. Joe's going out to work. I'm going to have to head out here in just a minute too. Oh, well, thanks, you guys. I might rant, but you learn something from my rants. I've done a lot of research on all of this. Taylor says, in Genesis 1, God creates the heavens and the earth and all the plants and animals. In Genesis 2, God specifically plants a garden in Eden and places the man he created there. Yep. That's absolutely right. Oh, Joyce says, meanwhile, TCM is allowed to be practiced as medicine, but not Western herbalism. Not in the United States as a medical practice. I think it's given a lot more respect, but it's still an alternative health practice. so if somebody's practicing, traditional Chinese medicine here in the United States, they still have to adhere to the language. I'm pretty sure about that. But yes, over in, the Eastern countries like China and India and those places, Ayurveda and TCM are both established medical practices. Absolutely. Yes, and you're so right. Greed did that. Big pharma. Yep. Yep. I, I yeah, on YouTube, I really shouldn't share my strong opinions, but I'll just say that I feel like my opinion. Um, they want us sick, but not dead. That's why I went so long of my life being sick. But you know what I realize now? Because now at age 61, I feel very vibrant and healthy overall. I feel really good. I know there are things that I could do lifestyle wise to improve myself, but in terms of comparison about how I felt in my body back then, and I was fit, I was into fitness, I was into healthy food between now and then. And I'm not as fit now, but being the age I'm at, but I feel more healthy. I manage my blood pressure naturally. And, not to say that that's perfect, but, I feel so much better. I feel so much better. I feel like back in the day when I was on all those medications, my body was slowly dying. I really truly believe that because I was degrading from year to year to year and going, what is going on? Why do I feel like this? And I don't feel like that anymore. It's just amazing. Thank you, Harani. Yes, that book is Witches, Midwives, and Nerves. If nurses, midwives, witches, and nurses. If you want a great book about the history of especially women in herbalism. Oh, hi Heidi. Add on to question or essential oils. I can do that. I can talk more about the essential oil if you'd like me to do that. With the herbs, I do. I love talking about both. Let's see here. Ashley says, Teresa, at Teresa, for Teresa, if you like oranges, you could combine orange and mandarin or mandarin essential oil with some rosemary. It's great together. It is. Rosemary and orange goes together beautifully well. Melissa says, question, hi Heidi, what can I use for hallux valgus pain relief? I wake up with pain every morning and need to massage my feet and calves to be able to get up from the bed. Thank you so much. Do you know, okay, so that's a medical question. You guys, on social media especially, I can't legally answer medical questions, okay? But I want to just say here that what an herbalist will do is the first thing that we're presented with a diagnosis. I hope that was from a doctor. And then we start thinking about, okay, what's the root cause? What is causing it? And if we can get to that, then we can start working with the root cause. Okay. So I want to say, if you can, ask a doctor, or if that's a diagnosis, what caused it, and then you can start working on root cause. As far as the pain, though, some of the things that you can do, especially if you're using massage to relieve the pain already, is make a massage oil. And I would probably use a good 5% dilution of the essential oil for something like this. But get some good pain relieving and circulatory stimulating essential oils in that massage blend. So rosemary, we were just talking about rosemary, would be really excellent for that. Juniper berry is probably going to be pretty helpful. You could put it into a base of St. John's wort, infused oil, and you can buy that from different places. I think Aromatics International sells it. It's already infused. Sometimes I sell mine if I've made too much, but and helichrysum is very, very good. for things like that. But you want a little combination of things. Ginger is another one that could be very, very helpful. Oh, thanks, Michelle. Anne says, yes, herbs make our skin look better too. I'm 67. I'm very healthy because of no meds. Exactly. It's just, yes. I think our body, like with all the medicines, over the counter prescription, our body's like, what is going on here? And they're trying to figure out our body, all of us our inner healing um, parts of us are trying to they're almost fighting against the drugs. And when we use herbs instead, it's I feel like it's almost like they're saying, here, come. They're very, very welcoming to the essential oil and the herbs, and the body starts responding. And that's what's so excited about that. Heather says, with my skepticism, what are about herbs, or how do you suggest I move forward? Heather, best thing to do is honestly just take a chance and start. And I would suggest to you that you start viewing your own body, because this is what happened to me, and happens to my students as well. And even my clients, once we start getting a one-to-one relationship going, they start viewing their body differently. What you want to do is see yourself as your own first client. You are your own first person you're trying to help, right? And you get to know your body really, really well. Not everybody responds to the same protocols. That's another thing that's so different about herbalism. When you start working with yourself, you find out what you're sensitive to and what you're not. Whereas with modern medicine, you're just handed a pill and everybody gets the same pill. So I would say, think about yourself here. Think about, your constitution, what you're like. Do you run hot? Do you run cold? Do you run moister? Like, are you sweatier, or are you a drier person? Like, where are you in all of that? And then think about the situations that you're trying to improve, okay, in your body. Like, what are you trying to help? Okay. And then just start making your herbal products that go along with those situations. But that's kind of where my start was. And then over time, it turned into like, let's look at overall health. Let's look at mental health. Let's look at different aspects, until suddenly that's all I was doing was using herbs. Herbs and essential oils. And what a blessing it's been. So just start. Take a little course. Take a little mini course to start off with. I have a really great herbal medicine making course. In fact, if you go ahead and sign up for one of my free things, like this herbal apothecary guide, there's an offer on the tail end of that where you can get that herbal medicine making course, and it focuses on cold and flu. But you can get it for like 75% off. It's really inexpensive for what it is. I think it's like $37 or something. So that's a way to start. And just start reading, start doing. I think the biggest thing is just to start working with your herbs. Let's see here. Cindy says, this is exactly why we in Canada try to distance ourselves from the USA, amongst other issues. But we do need to give the USA researchers 10 stars for giving us all so many benefits to information. Yes, I think you're right about that. The US, in fact, I take a lot of courses. I'm a course junkie. I love learning, but I took a little course. I love different places to learn, but I took a formulation course on formulating herbal sprays specifically, and aromatic sprays using essential oils safely, because you've got to preserve them and solubilize them. There's different things you need to do to make them very, very safe. And it's so interesting because the United States doesn't have hardly any rules, or has hardly any rules for cosmetics regulation. And these companies are allowed to put all kinds of things into their cosmetics formulas. And one of the things that I learned was that parfum, if you see parfum, Parfum, on a label, what it is, it's probably a product called naticide, and it's actually a broad spectrum preservative, but it has a scent. And so these companies can just put that on there and then just say they're allowed, get this, in the US, they're allowed to say preservative free. And that's what they're using, a preservative that's synthetic. But that's why you need to know what all those ingredients are. Anyway, but yeah, the US is something else again. Let's see here. Brenda says, question, when taking herbs, does the body want to rest and sleep when healing? Do you know your body rests and sleeps more when you're deficient, okay, when you're not doing so well? It's not the herbs. What I would say is that if you're having trouble sleeping and resting, which many people are if they're ill, take herbs to support that. If you need more energy, then take herbs to support energy, like adaptogens are amazing. Start with ashwagandha, start with eleuthero. Those are two wonderful ones that you can start with. Schisandra is another one, and shatavari, if you're a woman, really, really helpful. But you just kind of have to figure out what's going on. But if your body is in need of healing, that's just a natural response for it to want to rest. And we need to get enough rest. Sleep is super important to the healing process. Reducing your stress levels is another thing. I don't think people realize how damaging to our cells in our body stress is. And I wish I had known this years ago, because I'm sure that was part of my problem too. Years, decades of chronic stress from poor relationships or from, sometimes I might have a hostile work environment, depending on the year. It's just, but that stuff takes a toll on your health. Okay, let's see here. Deanna says, hi, can I use dried bee balm to make a tincture, salve, tea, any preparation? Absolutely. You can make salves with infused oils. You can make tinctures with the bee balm. You can put them in teas. Those bee balm is really wonderful because it works in a lot of different things. BB says, question, would 100 proof be best if it was rehydrated? Honestly, if you're rehydrating your Hawthorn berries, BB, I think I might even go with a higher proof. Okay. There's really no way to double check to see if you've got 25 or 30% alcohol if you're adding moisture. So I always, like I say, just be safe. Use the highest proof you can. That's what I would do if I was adding water to it. Dominique says, how do I feel about herbal wines versus tinctures? I've never made an herbal wine before. If I did, I would use dried herbs. And I think they'd be wonderful. Once again, you've got a small portion of alcohol. Usually most wines, at least here in the US, they're anywhere between, 12 and maybe 14% alcohol. And then you've got the rest water. So you're going to have a little combination there, but I'm sure they would be fine. I personally like my tinctures, though, just because I've been making them forever and I can tell when they're powerful enough, and I just really enjoy them. I think the herbal wines, though, you can do a lot with flavors. You could, mulled wine is a good example of that. So, just play around and have fun with it. Rosie, what herbs are good for Lyme disease? It depends on what your presentations are. What I would say is get Stephen Herod Buhner's book, Healing Lyme. It's excellent. The man has some amazing, good protocols in there. And there's an herbal company that have even taken his protocols, and they've made the formulas for people if you want to just buy them. And Tammy says, what are my recommended herb companies? So personally, what I do is I start off with, I try to buy as local as possible. So I look for small family-owned herb farms in my area. So like in my area, we've got Oshala Farm is really good. It's over in Oregon. There's Reverie Farm, which is over in Troy. That's just a couple mile or a few miles away. It's about an hour and a half away, I guess, from us. But that's where I go first because I'm going to get really, really good fresh herbs. Okay. If they're the closer they are. The next step, I will bump up to family farms that are farther away. So Love Light Farm is one. There's Foster Farms Botanicals back east is really good. And then if those don't pan out for me, then I'll go to the bulk herb suppliers. So Star West Botanicals, Pacific Botanicals, Mountain Rose Herbs. Those are some of the better ones. Patty says, what are the best herbs for asthma? Patty, I have a recipe on my website that I actually formulated for a 3-year-old with asthma. And so the herbs in there are really wonderful for supports, for respiratory support. I cannot, asthma is a medical condition, so I can't say for asthma. But that's why I formulated it for this 3-year-old, so I can say it that way. But let me see. Maybe we can find it here for you. Let's see. I have to tell you that it does not taste very good, but it's been effective for quite a few people, including the little 3-year-old when he would take it. And then essential oil too. There is an essential oil called Inula graveolens. It's actually related to elecampane, but that essential oil, when diffused, can be also very, very helpful. Okay, you guys, I'm going to answer about 2 more questions. So I'm looking for the question in all caps. Melissa says, I made 2 St. John's wort oils, and after 3 weeks, both oils have some deep red color some days in direct sunlight, one with jojoba oil and another with virgin olive oil, but not light red as your is it fine? It's probably just fine. Mine's really dark red, actually. Let's see. Question. This is from Joy. I made an herbal infused honey with chamomile, rose, lavender, and lemon balm. And then we got a couple of days of 89-degree weather. Had the fan on, but did I ruin my honey? Did it heat extra? Oh, no, you're fine. No, you're good. If it's just at room temperature, that's absolutely fine. I'm going to answer one more, and then we have to hop off. I have to tell you, be sure to get your home apothecary guide. You can still grab it in the little ticker tape thing down there. But I'm not going to be able to go live for the next 2 Sundays because I'm actually going to be taking care of grandkids. So my two of my little grandbabies. So I won't be live for about 3 weeks, and then I'll go ahead and get that scheduled for you guys. And then Crest says here, hi, Heidi, do you have any recommendations for seed companies? There are so many. I don't have access to fresh St. John's wort, and I want to make a tincture with it. I have plenty of dried. Seed companies, I like, if you're looking for medicinal seeds, Strictly Medicinals is Rico Check's company. Very, very reputable seed company. Baker's Creek is another one. I like Baker's Creek because they test all their seeds for any kind of GMO. And so they're a really nice company. I like to order from both of those. All right, you guys, we are going to hop off. I've got to go. It's 3:00 and the hubs is waiting. So I will see you in about 3 weeks. If you're in the Confident Herbalist tribe, I will see you in there. In fact, we're doing special session number 3 on Wednesday on energetics. We're looking deeply into Western herbal energetics. We're doing session number 3. I'm excited to do that one. It's going to be fun. All right, you guys, I will see you soon. All right, bye-bye. I can't seem to get off. Here we go. I think I found it. Bye, you guys. Have a really good couple weeks until I see you again. Here we are.